So coming to you live from the city of Port Phillip and still broadcasting from my spare room, this is Market Spell Talks. And tonight we're talking about the strategy, the numbers and the shift behind last Wednesday's mayor election at the city of Port Phillip. Welcome councillors, welcome staff, welcome residents, and also welcome to the political local tragics that are among us and kindly watch this small, very amateur little program. Again, thank you for joining us online. If you've got any questions, feedback, feel free to use the comments section or send me an email, hello@marcuspearl.com. We love hearing from you. In fact, I got my first relevance deprivation syndrome comment from my last episode, and keep the feedback coming. I always love to hear it. So tonight we're breaking down the 2025-2026 mayoral and deputy mayoral elections. The annual ritual that looks like ceremonial on paper, but is powered by a full day of behind-the-scenes, closed-door negotiations. So let's go into what happened, why, and what it means for you. But first, let's just quickly talk about how the mayor at the city and the deputy mayor rather at the city of Port Phillip is actually elected. So there's 9 councillors at the city of Port Phillip. 5 votes elect a mayor and a deputy. The real vote happens earlier in a confidential meeting, a councillor meeting behind the scenes before they usually walk into a chamber. Deals are done, and by 6:30 p.m. last Wednesday night, the public meeting is usually a formality. Some hate it, some say it avoids chaos, but it's been the system for probably close to 20 years at the city of Port Phillip. So let's just go through the candidates for the mayoral election. Just before we do that, just a note, Louise Crawford was the incumbent mayor and the deputy mayor was Brian Mayers. Louise Crawford is an endorsed ALP candidate, Australian Labor Party candidate, and Brian Mayers is a ratepayer of Port Phillip candidate, also known as ROP. So they're the incumbents that will walk through it. The news on the street was behind the scenes. There were 3 candidates, obviously the incumbent ALP councillor Louise Crawford, Alex Macon, who represents Montague Ward, who is independent but was endorsed by Progressive Port Phillip at the last council election, and then Serge Tamar, who was independent but also had a voting block, so to speak, or a candidate block at the last election. They were the 3 names that were being mentioned for the mayor vote, the all-important mayor vote. It was narrowed down to 2 candidates in terms of what actually happened on the evening. Alex Macon's a first-term councillor, organised and ambitious. Serge Tamar is a long-term councillor in the city of Port Phillip, 3rd term. He withdrew his support nomination some time ago, unofficially, to be focusing on a run for one of the French overseas parliamentary seats, as I understand it. So that just left Crawford and Macon for the mayoral vote. Let's have a look at the scoreboard in terms of actually what happened on the night for the 2 positions. This is unofficial, obviously, but I have it on reasonably good authority that these were the numbers. They could be completely wrong. If they are completely wrong, please feel free to send me back some feedback. But I understand the mayoral vote behind the scene was Crawford received 3 votes and Macon received a very impressive 6 votes. So Crawford held the ALP block in terms of Buckingham and Crawford, and it's understood Consolo supported Louise also, and Macon secured the rest in terms of the other 6 councillors. So the 3 ROP councillors, Rod Hardy, Betty J, and Brian Mayers, and also the all-important swing votes in this case, which was Serge Tamar, and rather surprisingly also Justin Halliday was understood to be voting for Alex Macon. Now, it's interesting that the ratepayer block here, or the ROP block, again proved very decisive, disciplined, coordinated, and also functionally the balance of power in many respects in terms of how these elections are actually operating on the night. The big moment really was that Halliday broke with the ALP and backed Macon. That wasn't necessarily, if that is true and accurate, that wasn't necessarily the prediction that I was hearing before it, that's for sure. So, an emphatic victory there for Alex Makin. And congratulations, Alex, on being elected the Port Phillip mayor. There's quite a lot of mayoral experience in terms of previous mayors on this council. I think there's at least four or five that have been mayor or deputy mayor in the past. So it's interestingly aligned council, but there we go. So Alex Makin was elected 6 votes to 3 in the mayoral election behind the scenes. So the takeaway is obviously it's a bit of a clear shift and an emphatic victory. It sounds close in terms of 6-3, but actually that's a very reasonable result. In fact, it's very substantial. The deputy mayoral vote, Brian Mayers received 5 votes and Libby Buckingham was the nomination, and she is understood to be receiving 4 votes. Now, the messaging behind Alex Makin and also Brian Mayers, I understand it, in terms of why they were the best candidates is obviously their performance as councillors, but also pushing the line that in a state election year, which is next year, it would be not necessarily optimum to have a endorsed political candidate running the council at the time that the state election advocacy is happening. So supporting Buckingham, we understand it was Buckingham, Crawford, Consolo and Halliday, and then a small but emotional twist potentially at the end in terms of Alex potentially moving his support from Buckingham into Mayors. We don't have that confirmed by Alex, but that was potentially one of the rumours that was moving around. But very much there was the alignment on the night in terms of the mayor and the deputy mayor. So what happens at the formal council meeting itself at 6:30 is the outgoing mayor and deputy mayor make speeches. On this occasion, Crawford gave the mayor's speech. Obviously, it was short, intentional, lots of focus on what's been happening behind the scenes in terms of improvements that have been made, and also the same as Brian Mayers, saying that lots of things have been going on in the first term of the city of Port Phillip, but mostly internal improvements. But a big underlying statement from all the speeches on the night last Wednesday were watch this space and let's see what happens. But it was an interesting mayoral response speech by Alex Makin, and also to note that he also made a interview with our good friend Greg Day, which you can see online at twisk.com. Sorry, just Google Twisk and you'll be able to find it. But it was actually, there it is there. Sorry, I was just trying to bring that up. So it was a good interview that was done on the Saturday morning following the Wednesday, where he had a bit more time to state some of the issues and items that were important to him. But the key themes in Alex's speech on the night on Wednesday, which he had time to prepare for, obviously, and then also his first public interview with Greg Day, was boldness, unity on the council, a focus on Fisherman's Bend is where he also wants to focus. State government transport is something he's looking at. He made a big point of the arts also, accessibility to councillors, saying that was important, process improvements for councillors and also for officers. So look, expect a procedural, efficiently focused mayoralty. There were some notable admissions, though, from the priorities, which Greg actually pulls him up on this interview around childcare, community safety, the marina, the vineyard, Kerford Road, waste, and also the thing that was been missing in both the speeches on the night and also the subsequent communication, I think, is, where is the focus on the council's service deliveries, but also state election advocacy in this all-important year, which the City of Port Phillip has been very good at, particularly in the last 3 state elections, to say the least. So let's have a look at that interviews in further detail. Greg actually also, have a look at that interview would be my advice, but there was a number of things that weren't said. So the state election advocacy is a big deal that probably should be centre to this, but it was also a big focus on what the internal machinations of the council are in terms of what they've been doing in terms of improving governance. Speaking times at council was mentioned, governance laws, etc. But the real big push for this term of council, or this year of council rather, is to make sure that they make some external progress on being perhaps less focus on unity, more focus on actual delivery and solving problems in the council and making sure that external focus is there. So perhaps that's why a number of councillors have swung behind Alex Macon. So he's got a formidable majority for now. It's a big reset for the year, less internal housekeeping and more outward results. Delivery will be the big test, particularly around childcare. The St Kilda Marina, as we talked about before, the vineyard is a critical piece of infrastructure that needs to be talked about in terms of what's happening there. And also the all-important community safety is the ever-present item that's been happening. So that is the overview of where the vote sat on the mayoral election and what's happening. So we're looking at Alex Macon, and congratulations again to Alex and Brian on being the new mayor and deputy mayor of the city of Port Phillip. It's going to be a fascinating year. It's probably the most important year in the city of Port Phillip council term. The second year is where the rubber hits the road. They should have set down their council plan. They should have a very clear view of where the money's going. This council is in a formidable budget position. They have a lot of money to spend and a lot of money to invest, but there's a lot of problems that need to be fixed around the city. So unity is important within this council, but it'll be interesting to see with that sort of split vote and also rumours of a substantial amount of tension now within some of the minority groups on council after this vote. If you watch the actual council meeting video, there is a really interesting scene at the end where there's almost a race to the exit by some councillors. And I'm also told that quite unusually a number of councillors didn't attend the after drinks. So albeit there's a lot of external focus on unity within the city of Port Phillip at the moment, it'll be put to the test in this term, as there's now some potentially personal scars that have been made by this contest and others, and the ever-present pressure from the residents of the city of Port Phillip, those watching council, for this council to do external things rather than focusing on themselves and procedures in the chamber. That's all from me. Sorry about my husky voice this evening. I hope you enjoyed this program. Please feel free to send me any feedback as you possibly can. hello@marcuspell.com or 0478 136 762. See you next time.